I'm going to tell you guys how that deal works out for Guitar Center. So you know how it worked out for me. I walked in with a Harley Benton, an Epiphone, and a Squier and $500, and I walked out with American Deluxe Tele. But how did it work out for Guitar Center? All right, so looking at this, it says Guitar Center's numbers. They had a Fender USA Tele Deluxe guitar. They paid $500. Now keep in mind, the reason I'm saying that is they're selling the guitar for $1,000. In the video, you saw them give me half of everything that they were going to sell those guitars for of mine. They gave me half. So we're going to assume that they gave this customer who traded in this Tele Deluxe half. They could have given him 60%, but we're going to go with half because it's easy numbers. That means that Tele Deluxe that they sold me for $1,000, they paid $500 for. Okay, so that's a pretty easy thing to understand, right? Okay, they paid $500, they sold it to her for $1,000, and I bought it, and now they made $500. They doubled their money. In the guitar market is a big deal. Okay, it's very common to use. It's not very common in new, but they made double their money. But I didn't actually buy the guitar. I did trade. So how does that work out? Well, here's where it gets, I think, fun. So if you go here, really what happened was I gave them $501 cash. There's the picture of me holding my cash. So what happened is they were into that Tele for $500 and I gave them $501 cash. That means they made $1 and got my 3 guitars. They didn't make $500. They made $1. Remember, because they paid $5 to that customer. I gave them $501. They're flush, right? That they've paid themselves back. I gave them $501, so technically they made $1, but they have those 3 guitars. So even though they're going to double their money on those 3 guitars, well, technically, think about this. They're not into the guitars for anything because I gave them what they paid that guy for the guitar. Now what happens? Well, here's what happens. Now they've paid me $500 or $501, I should say, for those guitars, which means they can sell those guitars for $1,002. They bought my Harley Benton for $150. They're going to sell it for $300. They paid $180 for the Squier. They're going to sell that for $360. And the Epiphone, they paid me $171, so they'll sell for $342. That comes to a whopping $1,002. Now they could get more for those guitars and they get for less. We're only going to be generalizing these numbers because the truth is, what if some of these suck and they don't sell very well? They could discount these 10% to get them out the door. Or maybe they don't actually mark them for what they told me for. They could mark them up for more. But either way, they sell those 3 guitars. They sell them for $1,002. We're going to make $500. I go in and I paid cash for that Tele, $1,000 for that Tele. I walk out of the store, they made $500. But because I gave them 3 guitars and $500 cash, when they sell those 3 guitars, they're going to make $1,000. So instead of doubling their money, right? You see how the math, they paid $500, they were going to make $500, now they paid $500, they're going to make $1,000. You could see why this is beneficial to them for doing this, except for that's actually not how it works. I said they're going to make $1,002 after they sell those 3 guitars, but realistically, keep in mind, that's, if you've ever been to a Guitar Center, you know that it's not just when you don't just go and buy a guitar and walk out. When you go to buy a guitar, what do? Come on, guys, you know what they do. They go, hey, do you need that Pro Series protection plan? Do you need a guitar stand? Do you want a cable? Do you need picks? Especially if you're a new guitar player. Let's create this scenario. Let's say he says, well, you're going to need a strap, a cable, some picks, a gig bag, an amp, a stand. If you take the items of that, and I took this as generalized items, let's say $15 for a strap, $20 for a cable, $6 for picks, $69 for a gig bag, $109 for an amp, $20 for a guitar stand. That's $236 gross worth of add-ons. With a general 40% margin, they make an additional $94. Now, let's say that's a new beginner. Well, they need lessons. The Guitar Center wants to sell their lessons. Lessons are about $100 a month. Actually, I think they're more than that. And they make about $30, which I think actually they make about $40. But again, I'm keeping the numbers easy. That means if they sell that Harley Benton and we're able to add on to those things to the customer, they would make, not gross, they would make $424. So think about this. Guitar Center could have sold me a Tele that they paid $500, doubled their money. There's my thumb up emoji. Sorry, guys. So they could have sold a Tele for $1,000, made $500. Now, off that one Harley Benton transaction, they could make a total of $424. So obviously, if they made the $424 profit, they would only be $76 short of what they would have made if they doubled the Tele, but they still have an Epiphone and a Squier to sell. Now, we haven't even discussed what happens if that student doesn't quit. What if that student sticks with lessons for months, each month paying a dividend, $34, $30 to $40 a month. Plus, they buy other accessories while they're there. Maybe a learning book, maybe other items, maybe upgrade guitars. Those 3 guitars that I traded to Guitar Center, instead of making $500, Guitar Center could make potentially $2,000 or $3,000. And essentially, if a customer walked in and bought that Telly and left, that's one customer. That's the end of the transaction. But because I bought them 3 guitars for the one, because I brought those to them, they are now going to sell 4 guitars out of that one store. That's 4 customers instead of 1. That is what Sweetwater cannot do. That is what Amazon cannot do. This is how the mom and pop business model works when it works great. A lot of you guys always ask me, what about mom and pop shops? What about this? Look, I am like I said, I am loyal to my addictions, my guitar addictions. So I'm going to shop at Guitar Center. I'm going to shop at Sweetwater. I'm going to shop at the mom and pop shops. I'm going to shop at a gas station if they sell guitars. I'm just addicted to them, okay? I love guitars, and I don't really kind of discriminate that way. I have my preferred way, methods of buying, and because I had a store for 13 years, I do lean towards the mom and pops more. There's a kindred spirit to that, of course. I don't think they should solely do used gear. I think they should really be focused on that thing that Reverb can't do, that Sweetwater can't do. Your competitors can't do it. I want the mom and pop stores to do it because they already are, and I want them to be successful. And I knew Guitar Center, if I did the Guitar Center store and I was right, people would watch it. It's already got 130, 140,000 views. And I think that's the back end of that video that you didn't see when you were watching that video. Think about that. I want you to kind of permeate all those numbers. I know that was to some of you that was a lot to go through really fast. But imagine the advantage to them and how their inventory would just escalate and plume as those transactions happened. That's a great way to get all these guitar players who during COVID got into guitar either first time and got in their Amazon guitars or their first time guitars, or some of these guitar players out there like you guys and me that kind of bought a lot of guitars. We're sitting on way too many, and the market's a little soft right now. It's a little hard to sell, and when you do sell, it's a little bit more pain in the ass, let's just be honest, selling online or selling in person. This is how Guitar Center can, in my favorite way of ever always saying, the best business model solves a problem. They could solve a lot of problems by making it an environment. Heck, they could give us more for our trades. You can see in their business model, they have the ability to do it. And on that note, I will see you guys next Friday. And I know I said know your gear already, but I'll say it one more time. And know your gear.
Today's episode of the Know Your Gear podcast is brought to you by Patreon members, channel members, and viewers who like and subscribe.